What if the future isn't waiting for you out there somewhere, but instead, it is quietly reaching backward, rewriting the story of your past? Think about that for a moment. Every memory you carry, every decision you thought you made years ago. What if those moments are not locked in stone? What if they are shifting, even now, being bent and reshaped by the reality you are walking into tomorrow? We have been told since childhood that the past is fixed, that what's done cannot be undone, that history moves like an arrow in one direction, always forward, always final. But strange stories, scientific experiments, and ancient spiritual teachings whisper something different. They hint that time is not a straight line at all, that it loops, bends, and folds, that the future you are stepping into can ripple backward, touching yesterday, adjusting your memory, reshaping the path you thought you had taken. And if that's true, then nothing about who you are is permanent. Nothing about your past has the power to chain you. Because the moment your future changes, your past must obey. Pause. Let that sink in. Have you ever had a memory that felt solid until suddenly it didn't? Maybe a childhood detail that your siblings swore happened differently. Maybe an event at school that when you replay it now, feels almost like someone else lived it. Is that just the fragility of memory? Or is it a clue, a small crack in the timeline where your future is rewriting the script? This is what we're going to explore together today. Not as cold theory, not as dry speculation, but as a living mystery that is happening inside you right now. Stay with me until the end, because by the time we finish, you may realize that the key to freedom isn't in changing the past. It's in choosing the future that will rewrite it for you. And before we go any further, if you feel this idea already tugging at your soul, if it feels like you've stumbled onto something you were meant to hear, make sure you subscribe right now. Not because of numbers, not because of algorithms, but because these conversations find you when you're ready. If you're hearing this, you are ready, and I'd love for you to walk this path with me. Now let's go deeper. Afternoon. The first cracks in time. History is full of stories that don't quite fit the official picture. Witnesses who swear an event unfolded one way, only to later discover records that show something entirely different. Some call these Mandela Effects, shared memories that don't match the timeline we're told is real. But others see them as the fingerprints of a much deeper law, the law of retrocausality, the idea that effects can precede causes, that your future can bend backward and edit your past. In physics, experiments with subatomic particles have suggested that choices made in the present can affect results in the past. The delayed choice quantum eraser experiment, for example, seems to show that what you decide now can determine what already happened to a photon earlier. That is not just strange, that is reality breaking open. Because if the smallest building blocks of the universe are not bound by straight-line time, why would you be? Memory as a living document. Your memory is not a photograph album. It's not a locked file cabinet of images and dates. Neuroscience tells us it is more like a living document, rewritten every time you recall it. Each time you revisit a memory, you don't just pull it out, you rewrite it. You add new details, new colors, new meaning. The act of remembering reshapes what is remembered. What if that's not just a quirk of biology, but the trace of something bigger? What if memory is malleable because it is being quietly adjusted to match the future that's already unfolding? Imagine this. Tomorrow, you step into a breakthrough, a new job, a relationship, a sudden insight. And as that future solidifies, your mind must go back and edit your past so that this new path makes sense. This would explain why sometimes we look back and think, How did I ever survive that? That doesn't even feel like me anymore. Because maybe it wasn't. Maybe that version of you is already being rewritten. Ancient whispers of time's reversal. This isn't just modern science. Ancient spiritual teachers often hinted that time was not what we think it is. In mystical traditions, there are references to the eternal now. The idea that past, present, and future exist at once. That you are not traveling through time, but standing in the center of it, experiencing slices in sequence. The Bible says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you." That's not linear time. That's a God who sees your end and your beginning as one. The mystic Neville Goddard taught that imagination creates reality, not someday, but instantly. And as your future manifests, your past rearranges to support it. Even Florence Scovel Shinn said, "Man can only receive what he sees himself receiving." Once you see yourself wealthy, healed, free, your past seems to bend itself to show you the trail that led here. The ancients whispered what physics is now beginning to scream. Time does not move one way. A personal mystery. Have you ever caught yourself remembering something differently after your life took a new turn? Maybe you once thought of a failure as shameful, but later, after success, you remembered it as necessary. The memory itself seemed to change flavor, as though rewritten to fit your new story. Could it be that when your destiny shifts, your memories shift to align with it? If so, then the key to freedom isn't fixing the past, it's choosing the future. Because if the future has the power to rewrite the past, then your task is not to untangle yesterday's knots. Your task is to declare tomorrow. The invitation. So here's the invitation. What future are you choosing to let rewrite your past? Are you clinging to a story of struggle, of scarcity, of limits? Or are you allowing your future self, your wealthiest, healthiest, most aligned version, to reach back, brush over those old pages, and write a new prologue? If this is stirring something in you, I want you to pause and write in the comments right now. I allow my future to rewrite my past. It might feel strange, it might feel bold, but this single act of typing it declares alignment. It sends a signal forward and backward that your story is being rewritten. And when you've done that, subscribe, because these conversations are not just entertainment, they are activations. And if you've been led here, it's because your timeline is already shifting. We've only just begun. In the next stretch, we'll dive deeper into the strangest scientific experiments that show the future bleeding into the past, and how you can begin to use this law in your own life. But remember this as you carry it into the next breath. Your past is not a prison. Your past is a canvas, and your future already holds the brush. If the future can rewrite the past, then surely there must be evidence. And there is, hidden not only in ancient teachings, but in modern laboratories. Quiet experiments with particles of light that seem to mock everything we thought we knew about time. The quantum trickster. In the late 20th century, physicists performed what's known as the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment. Imagine this: a single photon, a particle of light, is sent through a double-slit barrier. Depending on how it's measured, it can behave like a wave or a particle. Simple enough. But here's where it gets strange. In this experiment, the decision of how to measure the photon was delayed until after it had already passed through the slits. Logically, the photon's past behavior should already be locked in, but the results suggested otherwise. When scientists chose to measure it one way, the photon's past acted as though it had traveled through both slits. When measured another way, the past shifted, as if the photon had traveled through only one. Pause with that. Your choice in the present seemed to rewrite what had already happened in the past. If light, the very fabric of our visible world, can have its past rewritten by a future choice, then why not you? Why not your memories, your history, your so-called mistakes? The ghost in the timeline. Some dismiss this as subatomic trickery, far removed from human life. But let's step into the stories of people whose lives tell a different tale. There are countless accounts of time slips, moments when individuals step into a world that seems decades, even centuries, out of sync. Take the Versailles incident of 1901. Two women, Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, visited the gardens of Versailles. They suddenly felt an uncanny shift, the air heavy, the atmosphere dreamlike. They saw people in 18th century dress, figures that felt unnervingly real. Later, they insisted they had walked not into a costume party, but into the past itself. What if they didn't step back at all? What if they brushed against a version of history being rewritten by a future event, a ripple across timelines? Or think of those who vanish for minutes, hours, and return to find days have passed. Or worse, those who step away for a few moments and find years have gone by. Are these hallucinations? Or are they hints that time is not a straight road, but a web, tugged and reshaped by the futures waiting ahead? Memory shifts that shouldn't happen. Let's bring it closer. Have you ever stumbled on an old photo that feels foreign? You look at your own face, your own smile, yet it feels like you're gazing at a stranger. You might think, I don't even remember that day like this. Something about the scene feels off. Some call this bad memory. But what if it's evidence of the subtle rewriting that happens when your future bends backward and adjusts your path? Because if your destiny changes, your mind must update the backstory. The new role you're stepping into requires a new prologue. This is why success stories often sound like rewritten pasts. People say, I always knew I'd make it. But did they? Or did their future rewrite their past so that their journey now fits the role they play? Ancient echoes of retrocausality. Mystics hinted at this long before physics stumbled onto it. The Talmud says, with him, there is no before and after. Time collapses in the divine presence. In the Upanishads, time is described as a wheel, not a line. All spokes meet at the hub, where every moment touches every other. Buddhist teachings describe reality as a net, where each jewel reflects all others across past, present, and future. And in Christian scripture, Revelation speaks of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world, an event described as already accomplished before creation itself. These aren't contradictions, they are whispers of the same truth. The future bleeds into the past because all moments coexist. Your life as a movie reel. Think of your life as a reel of film. When you're watching the movie, it feels linear, frame after frame, moment after moment. But from above, the whole reel exists at once. The beginning, middle, and end all sit together, waiting to be played. Now imagine you, the viewer, suddenly deciding to change the ending. What happens? The entire reel must shift. Scenes rewritten. Dialogue adjusted, so that when the credits roll, the story makes sense. That's what happens when you choose a new future. Your subconscious, your memory, even reality itself must rearrange so that the story aligns. This is why Neville Goddard urged people to live in the end. Because once you inhabit the future you desire, the past begins to obey, rewriting itself in service of that destiny. A hidden power within you. So here's the question that matters. How do you use this? How do you consciously choose the future that rewrites your past? It begins with imagination, the divine faculty that bridges time. When you imagine vividly, with feeling, you're not daydreaming. You are stepping into a future timeline. And the moment you do, your past begins to bend toward it. This is why affirmations matter, why visions matter, why seeing yourself as whole, wealthy, and aligned is not fantasy. It is the script change that compels yesterday to shift around you. And if you've been feeling stuck in your past, trapped by mistakes, haunted by failures, I want you to pause and hear this. You are not stuck. Because even as you listen now, your future is writing back. A gentle pause for you. If this resonates, I'd love for you to drop a comment below. My future is greater than my past, not for me, for you, as a declaration, as a marker in your timeline that you are choosing the reality where the future bends backward and rewrites your story in light. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a breath and do that now, because these messages aren't random. If they've found you, it means your timeline is shifting. Let's walk through it together. Where we're going next. We've explored the strange science and ancient whispers of retrocausality. But next, we'll move into something even more personal. The signs that your future is already rewriting your past. Clues that show up in your daily life. Moments that feel like déjà vu. Choices that suddenly appear inevitable. Stay with me, because the deeper you go, the clearer it becomes. Your past has never been the problem. Your past is only the canvas, and your future holds the brush. You've now heard the science, you've heard the whispers from ancient wisdom, but let's bring it home. Let's talk about the signs in your life that show your future is already rewriting your past. Because if this law is real, and it is, then you should be able to feel it in your bones. Not just in books, not just in laboratories, but in the quiet, mysterious rhythm of your own days. Sign 1. Déjà vu is more than a glitch. Almost everyone has felt it. That eerie sensation that you've been here before. The way a conversation unfolds exactly as you remember. The turn of someone's head. The words that land with uncanny familiarity. Most people dismiss déjà vu as a trick of the brain. But what if it isn't a glitch of memory at all? What if it's the echo of your future feeding itself backward, rewriting your past so seamlessly that your mind momentarily stutters, catching both versions at once? When you feel déjà vu, it may be your future self whispering, "Yes, this is the path. Keep going." Sign 2. The correction of memory. Have you noticed how sometimes your memory changes without warning? You were certain a detail was one way, but now, suddenly, it feels different, almost as if the memory corrected itself overnight. This is not simply forgetting. This is your subconscious adjusting history to match the future that's unfolding. It's why some failures you once saw as devastating now seem laughably small. It's why old heartbreaks sometimes lose their sting the moment a new love arrives. Your future requires a different story, so the past bends to make it fit. Sign 3. Choices that appear out of nowhere. Have you ever been faced with a decision you never saw coming? An opportunity you didn't plan for, yet when it appears, you feel as though you were destined for it all along. That's a ripple from the future. It reaches back and scatters stepping stones across your past, so that by the time you arrive at the choice, you feel like you've been walking toward it forever. This is why people often say, "It just felt inevitable," because in a way, it was. Sign 4. A sudden peace with what once haunted you. Think of something that once filled you with shame, a mistake, a regret. Now notice how, at some point, it lost its grip on you. The memory didn't change, but the meaning did. That's because your future self needed that moment to become part of the story. So it reached back, stripped away the sting, and painted it with new color. This is not healing through time. This is healing of time. Sign 5. Intuitive nudges that don't make sense. Sometimes you feel compelled to do something small, random, even absurd, like taking a different road home, calling someone you haven't thought of in years, or picking up a book at just the right moment. Later, you realize that small action shifted everything. What if that wasn't intuition in the way we normally think of it? What if it was your future self tugging on the line, making sure the story bent the way it needed to? Living proof in your own story. Pause here. Think about your own life. How many times have you said, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here today? How many times have you seen the thread that tied it all together? Events that once felt random, now clearly essential. That's not hindsight, that's retrocausality. That's your future pulling on the strings, rewriting your past so that it becomes the perfect prologue. Why this matters, and here's why this matters. If you know the signs, you stop fighting your past. You stop trying to edit it with regret. You stop punishing yourself for what you did or didn't do, because you realize it's not fixed. It's already bending to the future you choose. And the moment you accept that, peace rushes in. Your past becomes less of a burden and more of a bridge, a moment with you. If something in your own story just lit up as you listened, if a memory suddenly made sense in a way it never did before, I'd love for you to share it in the comments. Not just for me, for everyone here. Because when you share your story, you become proof for someone else that their timeline is also alive, also changing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, let this be the moment. Because the next time you're scrolling, your future self may need this voice to call you back. Don't leave it to chance. Claim it now. The beautiful paradox. Here's the paradox. Your past feels like the foundation. Solid, heavy, unchangeable. But in truth, your future is the architect, the design, the blueprint. And as that design becomes clearer, the foundation shifts beneath your feet. Stone rearranged, walls restructured as if history itself were clay. This is the secret no one told you. You were never trapped in your past. Your past was always listening for the command of your future. Where we go next, we've seen the signs. We've recognized them in our own lives. But in the next stretch, we're going to move into something even more powerful. How to consciously step into the future that will rewrite your past. Because if the law is real, then you are not just a passenger. You are the author. Stay with me. Because once you see how to choose your future deliberately, you'll understand why nothing behind you can hold you anymore. If the future is secretly rewriting the past, then the question becomes, can you choose which future does the rewriting? Or are you simply drifting, letting any version of tomorrow reach back and scribble its story into your yesterday? The truth is, whether you choose it or not, some future is always shaping you. But when you learn how to choose consciously, you step into your role as author, not spectator. Step 1. Enter the end before it begins. Mystics like Neville Goddard called this living in the end. It means that, instead of hoping your life might turn out a certain way, you move into the state of being where it already has. If you want wealth, don't imagine it someday. Feel it now. See yourself living as though it were true. Hear the sound of abundance in your life. Touch the ease of it. When you hold that end long enough, your future self plants its flag there, and then reaches back, reshaping your past to lead you to that very outcome. Step 2. Speak the future into the now. Your words carry power, not just forward, but backward. Every time you say, I am unlucky, I never succeed, things never work out for me, you're not just projecting failure into the future. You're authorizing your past to rearrange itself, to prove you right. But when you speak faith-filled words, I walk in abundance. My steps are ordered. What belongs to me cannot be delayed. Then your past begins to bend to that command, bringing every step into harmony with the future you've spoken. So the question is, what story are your words telling backward? Step 3. Align your small choices. Your daily decisions may feel small. What you eat, what you read, who you spend time with. But each of those choices is a thread. When you choose from fear, you empower a future of fear. And that future will reach back, painting your past with shadows. When you choose from faith, even in something as small as kindness to a stranger, you empower a future of light. And that light does not wait. It floods backward, brightening the steps you've already taken. This is why people say, one small choice changed my life. Because it wasn't just the choice. It was the future it aligned them with. Step 4. Rehearse your new past. Here's a strange but powerful practice. Instead of trying to rewrite your past with regret, rewrite it with vision. Close your eyes and imagine your past, but see it through the eyes of your future self. The heartbreak becomes the teacher. The delay becomes the preparation. The failure becomes the soil of success. By rehearsing your past with new meaning, you give your future permission to sculpt it into the perfect foundation. Step 5. Trust the invisible edits. Perhaps the hardest part of this law is trust, because sometimes you will not see the edits being made. You will simply wake up one day and realize that what used to hurt you no longer does. That what used to define you has lost its power. That the person you were yesterday no longer feels like the same you. This is not emptiness. This is proof. The edits have been made. The script has been changed. Trust it. An invitation to practice right now. Pause and whisper this. I step into the future that rewrites my past with grace. Say it again, slowly. Let your voice carry it. Because in speaking it, you are not just declaring, you are authorizing the rewrite. And if that sentence stirred something in you, let me know in the comments. Type it there. Anchor it. Because when you declare it publicly, you strengthen the signal. And while you're there, subscribe. Because this channel is not just about information, it's about activation. And if you're listening now, it means your activation has already begun. Stories of transformation. Let me share a few reflections of how this works in real lives. A woman who lost everything in divorce once said she could not imagine recovery. Yet she began rehearsing her future, seeing herself in joy, in peace, in stability. Years later, she looked back and said, "Even my divorce feels like the moment that saved me." Her future rewrote her past. A man stuck in poverty declared daily, "I live in abundance." At first it felt like a lie, but he held the end in mind, and when wealth arrived, his past failures looked different. He no longer saw wasted years. He saw training. His future had rewritten his history. These aren't tricks of perspective. They are demonstrations of a law. The future commands, and the past obeys. Why you must begin now. Here's the danger. If you do not choose, your future will be chosen for you. Indecision is still a decision. Doubt is still an author. If you stay in fear, you empower a fearful tomorrow. And that tomorrow will reach back and fill your yesterday with shadows. But when you choose boldly, when you declare with faith, you awaken a brighter tomorrow. And that tomorrow immediately begins rewriting your past with light. This is why every moment is urgent. Because you are never just shaping what's ahead, you are editing what's behind. A closing thought of this stretch. Your future is not a stranger. It is not waiting in some distant land. It is leaning toward you now, pen in hand, ready to edit every chapter behind you. And the only question that matters is, what ending will you authorize? We've explored the theory. We've touched the mysticism. We've stepped into practices that allow you to choose. But now, let's look at the evidence that whispers from every corner of history, science, and lived experience. Stories that suggest this isn't fantasy. It's happening all around us. The physics of a rewritten past. In 2007, scientists in Israel studied what they called retroactive influence. They asked participants to choose one of two boxes, not knowing which one contained money. After the choice was made, the boxes were filled afterwards. And yet, statistically, participants chose the right box far more often than chance allowed. How could this be? Unless their future success had already reached back to guide their past choice. Similar studies in Princeton's PEAR lab, the Princeton Engineering Anomalies Research Program, hinted that human intention can influence random number generators, not only forward, but backward, as if mind and matter are bound across time, tugging each other into alignment. The mystery of premonitions. Think of those who dream of disasters before they happen. Planes crashing, buildings falling, loved ones in danger. Skeptics say coincidence. But what if premonitions are simply the bleed-through of a future already bending back? Your subconscious sees it before your conscious mind does, because time is not locked in a line. And here's the twist. Sometimes people report that their premonition changed the outcome. They warned someone, they canceled a flight, they avoided the danger, meaning the future not only rewrote the past, it rewrote itself again. The ancient stories that refused to die. The Greeks told of the fates, three sisters weaving the tapestry of destiny. They said the past, present, and future were all threads held in the same loom. The Norse spoke of Yggdrasil, the world tree with roots in the past, trunk in the present, branches in the future, all feeding each other at once. In Hindu cosmology, time was described not as a river, but a wheel, endlessly circling, folding upon itself. Across cultures, the whispers remain. Time is not straight. The future has always been shaping the past. The story of two friends. Let me tell you something more ordinary, yet no less mysterious. Two friends, both applying for the same scholarship. One was confident, declaring she would succeed. The other doubted herself constantly. When the results came, the confident friend won. But here's the strange part. When they both looked back at the journey, their memories of the interviews, of the preparation, of the feedback, they didn't match. The winner remembered encouragement, clear signs, helpful mentors. The other remembered obstacles, dismissive glances, discouragement. Did they really live two different histories? Or did their chosen futures rewrite the past each of them experienced? When history feels edited, think of how collective memory changes. Entire generations once believed events unfolded one way, until suddenly records reveal something different. Flags, logos, lines from movies remembered one way, then found to be another. The Mandela Effect is usually treated as a curiosity, a mistake of memory. But what if it's a crack in the wall? What if it's proof that collective futures are rewriting collective pasts? Maybe when humanity chooses a new trajectory, even history itself bends to align. The healing that shouldn't happen. Doctors sometimes see healings they can't explain. Scans that show disease one week and perfect health the next, with no medical explanation. What if these aren't miracles from nowhere? What if they're the result of a future where healing is real, reaching back and erasing the sickness from the record of the body? It would explain why some people say it's like it was never there, because perhaps it wasn't. The personal edits you've already felt. Pause for a moment. Remember a time when you thought you would never recover, never escape, never survive, and yet here you are. And when you look back, doesn't it almost feel like the struggle belonged to someone else? Like the weight of it has been strangely lifted. That's not just healing of the heart. That's evidence of the edit. Your future self stepped in and rewrote the meaning of your past so that you could carry on. Why these stories matter? You see, stories are not distractions. They are confirmations. Each one is a thread pointing to the same law. The future does not wait. It commands. And when you hear enough of them, you stop doubting. You start trusting. You begin to lean into the possibility that your own life is far more flexible, far more alive than you imagined. A word for you. If one of these stories just struck you, if it feels like you've lived something similar, I'd love for you to share it in the comments. Because when you do, you don't just validate yourself. You become part of the proof. Someone else will read your story and realize, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone. My timeline is alive too. And if you're listening, still curious, still leaning in, make sure you've subscribed. Because this isn't the kind of channel you stumble on by chance. You were meant to be here. And if your future led you here, it's because something is already being rewritten. Where we're headed next. We've looked at the evidence. We've seen how myth, science, and lived experiences all echo the same law. But next, we'll go deeper into how to sustain this awareness in daily life. How to walk each day as though your future is already commanding your past. And how that changes the way you think, speak, and act. Stay with me. Because once you embody this truth, you'll stop fearing your history. And you'll start living as the editor of your destiny. If your future is rewriting your past, then the question becomes, how do you walk through each day with this awareness? How do you live so fully in this law that everything around you begins to bend in your favor? The answer is not complicated, but it requires a new rhythm, a way of thinking, speaking, and choosing that aligns with your future self instead of your past wounds. Let's unfold it together. A daily practice of alignment. Every morning when you wake, you are standing at a fork. The past calls to you. Replay the same stories, feel the same regrets, wear the same labels. But your future is also calling. Step into me, and I will reach back and rewrite everything. The choice is made before your feet hit the ground. So here is a simple ritual. Before you rise, whisper one sentence. I step into the future that rewrites my past with grace. Feel those words settle in your chest. Imagine your future self, stronger, freer, lighter, walking toward you. And then rise knowing that every step you take will echo backward as well as forward, reframing the small moments when something goes wrong, a delay, a disappointment, a closed door. Most people say, this ruins everything. But when you live in this law, you say, my future is already rewriting this moment into blessing. Do you see the shift? Instead of treating setbacks as final, you treat them as raw material, clay in the hands of the future. And here's the beauty. When you begin to think this way, peace arrives where panic used to live. You no longer need to control every detail, because you trust the rewrite. The power of nightfall. Morning sets your tone. Night seals your edits. As you drift toward sleep, your mind relaxes. The conscious chatter fades, and the subconscious rises. This is the perfect moment to hand your future the pen. So as you lie in bed, whisper, my future is beautiful, and it is already shaping my past into light. Fall asleep in that awareness, and you wake in a world subtly rearranged. The watchfulness of words. Every sentence you speak sends ripples into your past as well as your future. When you say, I am cursed, nothing works for me, my story is ruined, you are licensing the darker timeline to reach back and stain your past. But when you say, I am chosen, my steps are ordered, my story is redeemed, you are aligning with a brighter tomorrow, and that tomorrow immediately begins painting over your yesterday. This is why the ancient proverb says, life and death are in the power of the tongue. not just for what's ahead, but for what's behind. A practice of looking back differently. Try this once a week. Sit quietly and bring to mind a moment from your past that still feels heavy. Then ask yourself, how would my future self interpret this? Perhaps the heartbreak was actually training you for love. Perhaps the failure was the soil for a greater success. Perhaps the loss cleared space for the gift that is now on its way. Rehearse that new meaning. Speak it aloud, and watch as even the emotional weight of the past begins to dissolve. Community of editors. Here's something most people overlook. When you share this journey with others, it multiplies. When you hear someone else say, "My future rewrote my past," your belief strengthens. When you declare publicly, "I choose the future that blesses me," you anchor the rewrite in community. That's why I often invite you to comment, because your words are not just interaction, they are activation. So if you're with me now, take a breath and write below, "My past is already being rewritten by my future." It may feel small, but it is a line in your timeline that cannot be erased. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the perfect moment. Because being part of this community is not casual, it is deliberate. Every video you hear, every truth you absorb, strengthens your future's hold on your past. Walking through each day differently. Once you live in this awareness, even ordinary life feels different. You spill your coffee, and instead of cursing the day, you smile. Even this will be rewritten. You miss a train, and instead of frustration, you say, "My future already knows why this is happening." You meet a stranger and sense a connection. You trust it as part of the script your future already laid out. Life becomes lighter because you stop carrying the burden of trying to fix the past. You realize it's not your job. Your job is only to choose the future. The editing is automatic. The peace that comes. Do you know what this law ultimately gives you? Peace. Not the fragile peace of circumstances behaving the way you want, but the deep peace of knowing your story cannot be broken. Because no matter what happened yesterday, your future is rewriting it today. And no matter what happens today, your future will edit it tomorrow. This is why mystics could endure hardship with calm, why they could bless even their enemies, because they knew nothing was final. Every page could still be rewritten. Where we go next, we've stepped into daily practices, rituals, and mindsets that allow you to live in this law. But next we'll go even deeper into the paradox of choice and destiny. How much is already written, and how much is truly yours to command? Because the greatest mystery is not whether the future rewrites the past, it's how much of that future is waiting for you to choose. Stay with me, because the answer may shift the way you see freedom itself. If the future can rewrite the past, then what about choice? What about destiny? Are we free, or are we following a script already written, already sealed, already unchangeable? This is one of the oldest questions humanity has carried, and it matters here more than ever. Because if you are both author and character, both chooser and chosen, then understanding this paradox will change the way you walk through life. The pull of destiny. There are moments in life that feel inevitable. Meeting someone who alters everything. Stumbling into the exact opportunity at the exact time. Discovering a book, a voice, a path that feels like it was waiting for you all along. These moments carry the weight of destiny. They feel less like choices and more like appointments, set long before you arrived. And perhaps they are. Perhaps your future self, already alive and real, has set markers along your path to ensure you reach the end it knows you must. The power of choice. And yet, there are also moments when choice feels undeniable. You choose to forgive or to hold on. You choose to speak courage or to remain silent. You choose to dream bigger or to shrink back. And each choice opens a door to a different future. Each choice is like striking a match, lighting up a possible tomorrow that wasn't there before. So which is it? Destiny or free will? The answer is both. How the two dance. Imagine your life as a grand novel. The ending is written, the climax, the resolution, the final truth. But the chapters in between, those are open to you. You can wander, delay, resist, or surrender. You can take detours or shortcuts. You can explore side plots. But no matter what you choose, the ending has already claimed you. This is why some people say, I feel like I was always meant for this. Because they were. Their choices may have delayed it, but destiny still reached back and rearranged the path. The rope and the river. Think of a river flowing toward the ocean. That is destiny. You cannot change where the river ends. The sea is certain. But within the river, you can swim with the current, fight against it, rest on the surface, or dive into hidden depths. That is choice. And here's the mystery. Whichever way you swim, the river flows backward as well as forward, rewriting the rocks, carving the path, making it seem like the journey was always leading you here. Your future ocean shapes the river behind you. The comfort of knowing both are true. This paradox can feel heavy, but it is not meant to trap you. It is meant to free you. Because if destiny is real, you can trust that no mistake can disqualify you. Your future will rewrite your past until it aligns with the ending that belongs to you. And if choice is real, you can rejoice that your actions matter. Every word, every decision, every vision pulls on the threads of time, shaping how the story unfolds. Together, destiny and choice are not enemies. They are partners. One sets the destination, the other chooses the route. A word for you right now. If you've ever felt stuck, wondering if you've missed your chance, if you've taken too many wrong turns, I want you to hear this. You cannot miss what is yours. The ocean is waiting. The river flows toward it, no matter what. Yes, your choices matter. Yes, they shape the path. But your destiny will reach back, rewriting even your wrong turns, weaving them into the perfect journey. So release the fear. You are not lost. You are being guided. The practice of cooperation. Here's how you live this paradox without fear. Declare your destiny. Speak the end you desire. See it vividly. Act in alignment. Make daily choices that honor that vision. Trust the rewrite. Know that even when you falter, the future is editing your past to bring you back to the path. When you live this way, destiny and choice become allies. You stop asking, am I free or predetermined? And you start realizing, I am both. The invitation. Pause here with me. Whisper. My choices align me with the destiny that is already mine. And if you feel that resonate, write it in the comments. Because when you declare it, you strengthen it, not just for yourself, but for everyone reading. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the moment. Not because of obligation, but because your destiny led you here. You didn't stumble in by accident. You were meant to hear these words. Let's walk this river together. The gift of peace. When you accept this paradox, peace arrives. You stop fearing that you've ruined your story. You stop doubting that your choices matter. You live in the flow of both, trusting the destination, honoring the path, and in that balance, life becomes lighter. Your past becomes softer. Your future becomes brighter. Where we go next? We've explored the dance of destiny and choice. But next, we'll move into something even more profound. The signs that your future self is already guiding you. Because if your destiny is set and your choices matter, then surely your future self must be whispering directions, leaving breadcrumbs, nudging you toward the life that is waiting. Stay close, because once you begin to notice those whispers, you'll never walk alone again. If the future can rewrite the past, then it must also be speaking to you now, because how else would it guide you into alignment? How else would it pull you toward the ending it has already claimed for you? The truth is, your future self is not silent. It is whispering, nudging, arranging. It is laying breadcrumbs in your path, guiding you step by step. And the signs are all around you. Sign 1, the whisper you can't explain. Sometimes you feel an inner pull that makes no sense. You wake up with the urge to call someone. You feel a sudden impulse to take a different road. You sit down and words spill out of you, as though planted from elsewhere. These aren't random sparks. They are whispers from your future self, tugging you toward the path that leads to the rewrite. When you listen, life flows. When you ignore, life feels heavy. The whisper is always there. It's your willingness to hear that matters. Sign 2, synchronicities that feel too perfect. Have you ever thought of someone and then they call? Or spoken about a dream only to see the exact opportunity appear days later? These are not coincidences. They are alignments. Moments where your future timeline bleeds into your present, arranging events to reassure you. Yes, you are on the right path. The more you honor them, the more they multiply. Sign 3, the recurring symbols. Perhaps you keep seeing the same numbers, 1111 on clocks, 333 on receipts. Or you notice the same animal, the same phrase, the same song appearing again and again. These are markers, anchors, ways your future self leaves signs along the way, reminding you, this is the story we are writing together. Stay the course. Dismiss them, and life feels dull. Honor them, and you begin to walk in wonder. Sign 4, the doors that refuse to open. Sometimes guidance comes not as a gift, but as a block. The job you wanted slips away. The relationship you begged for dissolves. The path you thought was yours crumbles beneath your feet. At first, it feels cruel, but often, it is your future self protecting you, closing the door that would have led you away from destiny. Every rejection is a form of redirection. Every loss is an edit. Sign 5, the deep sense of I've been here before. Déjà vu is not just memory. It is alignment. It is your future self confirming that you are walking the right line. That feeling of inevitability, of this was meant to happen. That's your timeline collapsing, past and future merging into a single thread. Living with awareness of guidance. Once you realize your future self is guiding you, life becomes less about forcing and more about listening. You begin to ask, what is this moment trying to tell me? You pause before rushing. You trust the rhythm of unfolding. And strangely, peace arrives. Because you know you're not steering alone. A personal pause for you. If you've felt these whispers, if you've seen synchronicities, if you've noticed numbers, signs, closed doors that later made sense, I want you to write in the comments, I trust the guidance of my future self. Because saying it matters. Declaring it anchors it. And when you share, you encourage others to trust their whispers too. And if you're hearing this and it feels like it was meant for you, subscribe now. Not out of routine, but because your future self already led you here. Don't ignore the nudge. Stories that prove the guidance. A man once ignored a strong urge to change his flight. He later learned that the plane he was meant to be on never arrived. A woman felt compelled to visit a bookstore she had no reason to enter. On the shelf was the exact book she needed, the one that shifted her entire career. Another dreamed of a symbol that made no sense, until years later it appeared in the logo of the company that would hire her into her dream job. Coincidence? Or breadcrumbs left by a future self already shaping the past? How to strengthen the connection. Quiet the noise. Whispers are drowned by chaos. Daily stillness lets you hear. Honor the signs. Keep a journal of synchronicities. The more you notice, the more they grow. Trust the nudge. Act on the small impulses, even when they seem illogical. Declare alignment. Speak aloud. My future self guides me with clarity and grace. When you live this way, guidance is no longer occasional. It becomes constant. The beautiful realization. And here's what I want you to feel deep in your soul. You are not wandering blind. Every step you take is accompanied. Every mistake you think you made has already been edited. Every whisper you hear is a future version of you. Alive, real, waiting, calling you forward. You are not walking alone. You never have been. Where we go next? We've opened the door to guidance. We've recognized the signs. But in the next stretch, we're going to explore something even more profound. The evidence that entire timelines, not just memories, can shift when a future changes. Not just whispers, but full rewrites. Moments when history itself feels different. Because a new ending has bent the story backward. Stay with me. Because once you understand timeline shifts, you'll realize how limitless your story truly is. If the future can whisper into your present and edit the details of your past, then surely it can do something even greater. It can shift entire timelines. It can bend reality itself. And when it does, you feel it not just in your memory, but in your world. When reality feels edited, have you ever woken up and felt the world was slightly different? A song you swore existed suddenly has no record. A line from a movie remembered by millions appears to have never been spoken. A logo you grew up with now looks foreign, wrong, like a poor imitation. Most brush this off as faulty memory. But what if it isn't? What if these are the ripples of future edits? Timelines adjusting themselves so the past matches the ending that now exists. The Mandela Effect is more than a curiosity. It may be our most public glimpse into timeline shifts. The collective rewrites. When one person feels their past has changed, it can be dismissed. But when millions remember the same thing differently, we must ask, what's really happening? Perhaps, when humanity collectively chooses a new trajectory, our shared future reaches back and reshapes history to match. A future where a phrase, a detail, a logo never existed, demands that the past rearrange itself. And the collective memory, caught between timelines, feels the dissonance. It's not confusion. It's evidence of the edit, the science that backs it. Physicists exploring quantum mechanics often describe reality as a multiverse, an infinite field of possibilities. Every choice opens a branch. Every decision splits the tree. But what if these branches aren't separate forever? What if, when a stronger future timeline is chosen, weaker ones collapse? And as they collapse, history itself gets revised, the details smoothed over, so the story makes sense. This would explain why timelines feel stable most of the time, yet occasionally glitch, revealing the seams. Personal timeline shifts. It isn't just collective. You felt it personally. Moments when your life seemed headed one way, until a sudden pivot redirected everything. And when you look back, it's almost as if the other path never existed. The details fade, the memories blur, the story feels like it was always leading here. That's not just nostalgia, that's timeline collapse. Your future demanded a different ending, and the past folded itself to obey. The mystery of vanishing obstacles.
Sometimes you carry a burden for years, debts, fears, obstacles that seem immovable. Then suddenly, they vanish. Opportunities arise, resources appear, and when you look back, you can't even recall why it felt so impossible before. That is a timeline shift. A future where you are free of those burdens, took command, and the past rearranged to make space for it. This is why transformation often feels miraculous, because from one timeline to another, it is. Ancient echoes, sacred texts hint at this mystery. The Quran speaks of God blotting out what he wills and confirming what he wills. The Bible says, "Old things are passed away. Behold, all things are become new." Buddhism teaches impermanence, not just as decay, but as the fluidity of reality itself. No past fixed, no future sealed. Different cultures, same whisper. Timelines are alive, shifting, rewriting. Why this matters for you? Once you understand timeline shifts, regret loses its grip. Because the very timeline where your mistakes mattered most may no longer exist. The very path you thought destroyed your life may already have collapsed into nothingness. You are not haunted by every possible past. You are living only in the one that survived, and even this one is still being edited. A pause for you. Take a moment with me now. Whisper this. I allow my future to collapse timelines that no longer serve me. Let it settle. And if you feel bold, type it in the comments. Because when you declare it, you release the weight of histories that no longer belong to you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hear me. Your future self led you here. This channel, these words, this moment, it's all part of the timeline being written for you. Subscribe now and walk this mystery awake. The signs of a timeline shift. How do you know when it's happening? You feel lighter, as though a burden has disappeared overnight. Old memories lose their sting, fading into neutrality. People from your past drift away, as if they were never central to your story. Synchronicities multiply, showing you're aligned with the stronger timeline. When these signs appear, don't resist. Embrace them. It means your future has chosen and your past is obeying. The beautiful realization. Timeline shifts are not rare. They are constant. Every decision, every declaration, every vision creates them. And once you see it, life becomes less about clinging and more about flowing. You trust that the story is alive, breathing, flexible. You stop fearing that history will crush you, because history itself is clay in the hands of your future. Where we go next? We've stepped into the mystery of timeline shifts, but in the next stretch, we'll go deeper still, into the practice of commanding your timeline. Not just noticing the shifts, not just trusting them, but stepping into the role of co-creator, where you speak and act in ways that cause the edits themselves. Because if the future rewrites the past, then your word, your vision is the pen. Stay with me, because once you realize that, nothing in your story will ever feel untouchable again.
If timelines can shift, if your future can reach back and rewrite your past, then here's the question you've been waiting for. Can you command it? Can you choose, declare, and direct the rewrite yourself? The answer is yes. And once you understand how, you stop being a victim of your past and start becoming the architect of your destiny. The law of command, every word you speak is not just sound. It is instruction. Instruction to your subconscious. Instruction to your timeline. When you speak with fear, you activate a fearful future. When you speak with faith, you activate a faithful one. This is why affirmations are not silly. They are laws in action. They are blueprints written in sound, carried into your future, then reflected backward into your past. Step 1. Declare in the present. Your timeline does not respond to someday. It responds to now. So instead of saying, I will be wealthy, say, I am wealthy. Instead of saying, I will be healed, say, I am whole. Instead of saying, I will be loved, say, I am love itself. Your future cannot rewrite your past if you keep pushing it into tomorrow. It must be declared as now. Step 2. Anchor with imagination. Words alone are sparks. Imagination is the fire. When you declare, I am abundant, you must see it, feel it, live in it. Imagine yourself walking into the home that's yours. Feel yourself receiving the payment, the recognition, the opportunity. See your future self, and let that vision sink into your bones. Because the moment you see it vividly, you've already entered the timeline. The rewrite begins immediately. Step 3. Reinforce with action. Command is not just spoken, it is lived. If you declare abundance, walk as one who expects it. If you declare healing, treat your body as one that is whole. If you declare love, speak and act from the truth that you are already chosen. Action is the stamp that seals the command. Step 4. Repeat until the shift holds. Every day, the world will try to drag you back into the old timeline. The news, the bills, the voices of doubt. This is why repetition matters. Not mindless, but intentional. Daily declaration, daily vision, daily small actions. Over time, the new timeline becomes stronger. And when it does, the old one collapses, its memories fading, its regrets dissolving. The power of night commands. Before sleep, your mind is soft, open, fertile. This is when your future listens most closely. So as you drift into dreams, whisper, I command my future to rewrite my past in alignment with my highest good. Say it with peace, not strain. Say it as though it is already true, because it is. And when you wake, you may find that even the weight of yesterday feels lighter. The example of transformation. I once heard the story of a man who lived in regret. He carried shame from choices made years ago. But each night before sleep, he began declaring, I am forgiven. I am free. My story is one of redemption. At first, nothing seemed different. But weeks later, his memories began to shift. He no longer replayed the mistakes with the same pain. He began to see those moments as lessons, not curses. His future self had rewritten his past. A pause for you. Whisper right now, I command my future to bless my past. And if you feel bold, write it in the comments. That single act plants a marker in your timeline that cannot be erased. And while you're there, subscribe. Because this channel is not just about hearing, it's about doing. And if you've made it this far, your future self clearly wanted you here. Don't ignore the nudge. Why command works. Command is not arrogance. It is alignment. You are not shouting at the universe. You are agreeing with it. You are not demanding. You are remembering. Because your future self already exists. It already knows your wholeness, your abundance, your joy. When you command, you are simply syncing your present with that truth. Living as a commander. Once you taste the power of command, your life changes. You no longer beg, you declare. You no longer regret, you reframe. You no longer fear the past, you rewrite it. And soon, the world around you reflects it. People treat you differently. Opportunities arise. Your inner peace grows because the timeline has shifted, and it obeys the voice that spoke it into being. Where we go next? We've learned how to command the rewrite. But in the next stretch, we'll explore how to sustain the shift when doubt returns. Because no matter how strong your declaration, the old timeline will try to whisper again. And you must learn how to silence it. Stay with me. Because once you master sustaining the rewrite, you'll never again fear slipping back into the story you've outgrown. You've learned how to command the rewrite. You've seen how your words, your vision, your choices call forth a future that edits your past. But now comes the greater challenge. Not just commanding, but sustaining. Not just stepping into a new timeline, but remaining there when the old one whispers. Because make no mistake, the past does not let go quietly. It echoes, it lingers, it tries to pull you back with doubt, fear, and memory. So how do you sustain the rewrite? How do you walk firmly in your new story until it becomes unshakable? Step 1. Recognize the whisper of the old. The old timeline speaks like a ghost. It says, "You're not really free. This is just pretend. You'll fall back into the same mistakes." When you hear that voice, do not panic. Do not argue. Simply recognize it. This is the old timeline trying to reclaim me. Awareness itself is power. Once you see the whisper for what it is, it loses its grip. Step 2. Reaffirm the command. When doubt arises, answer it with a declaration. If the thought says, "You're still broke," you respond, "I live in abundance, and my past is already being rewritten to match." If it says, "You're unworthy," you say, "I am chosen, and my story proves it." Every affirmation is a stamp that strengthens the new timeline and weakens the old. Step 3. Use gratitude as glue. Gratitude seals the rewrite. When you thank your future as though it has already happened, you fuse yourself to it. You collapse the distance between someday and now. So when fear rises, pause and say, "Thank you for the wealth already unfolding. Thank you for the healing already written. Thank you for the joy already alive within me." Gratitude doesn't just quiet doubt, it erases it. Step 4. Surround yourself with mirrors. Your environment either reinforces the old story or the new one. If you spend your time with people who constantly remind you of who you used to be, the old timeline strengthens. But if you surround yourself with those who reflect back your future self, the new timeline becomes solid. This is why community matters. You need mirrors that show you not your wounds, but your becoming. Step 5. Anchor with small wins. Sustaining a rewrite isn't about giant leaps. It's about daily reinforcement. Celebrate the small wins. The moment of peace where anxiety once lived. The little opportunity that affirms your vision. The synchronicity that reassures you. Each small win is proof, and proof sustains faith. Step 6. Trust the delays. One of the biggest tests comes when the new timeline takes time to solidify. Delays make you think, "Nothing is changing. I'm fooling myself." But delays are edits in progress. The future is rearranging the script. Old memories, old ties, old obstacles are being rewritten. Trust the process. The silence is not absence, it is adjustment. Step 7. Rest in the eternal now. Remember, time is not linear. Past, present, and future are one. So when you feel pulled into regret or fear, return to the now. Breathe. Anchor yourself in the truth that right here, right now, your future is already alive. The more you dwell in the present, the less power the past has over you. A personal pause for you. If you felt the tug of the old story lately, if doubt has been whispering, I want you to declare this right now in the comments. The old timeline has no power over me. My future is rewriting everything. Say it for yourself. Say it for the community walking with you. Say it to stamp your choice. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your reminder. Because the old timeline loves isolation, but your future thrives in alignment, in community, in shared faith. Subscribe now and walk with us in strength. The story of holding on. There was a woman who declared healing over her life. At first, nothing changed. Doubt screamed daily, but she refused to let go. Every night she whispered, "My future is health. My past is obeying." Months later, her doctors were baffled. What once plagued her was gone. And when she looked back, even her memories of sickness felt dreamlike, as though they had never truly been hers. She sustained the rewrite until it became unshakable. The gift of endurance. This is the secret. The rewrite is not fragile. It only feels fragile in the beginning. The more you hold, the stronger it becomes. The more you trust, the more the past bends. And soon the old whispers fade into silence. Endurance is not suffering. It is trust stretched across time. Where we go next, we've learned how to sustain the rewrite in the face of doubt and fear. But in the final stretch, we'll explore something even greater. What it means to live fully awakened to this law. Not just practicing it, not just testing it, but embodying it. So your life itself becomes proof that the future is rewriting the past. Stay with me, because this last revelation will shift not just how you see time, but how you see yourself. You've walked with me through mystery and science, through stories and signs, through practices and commands. Now we arrive at the final revelation. What does it mean to live fully awakened to this law? Not just to test it, not just to experiment with it, but to embody it so deeply that your very life becomes proof. The shift of identity. The greatest change happens when you stop seeing yourself as a victim of time and start seeing yourself as its author. When you wake in the morning and say, "My future is alive within me now." When you walk through challenges and whisper, "This, too, will be rewritten." When you look at your past and know it is clay in the hands of tomorrow, you stop fearing, you stop regretting, you stop doubting, and you begin living as the version of yourself who already knows the ending. Becoming the embodiment. To embody this law is to carry yourself differently. People notice peace in your presence. They see confidence in your eyes. They feel the quiet authority of someone who knows they cannot lose. Because how can you lose when even your past obeys your future? How can you fear when even your mistakes are rewritten into blessings? How can you doubt when every chapter bends itself to serve the ending already written for you? You become unshakable. The evidence in everyday life. When you embody this truth, life becomes rich with evidence. The right people seem to appear at the right time. Doors open that once were sealed. Opportunities align with uncanny precision. And when others ask, "How did this happen for you?" you smile and say, "Because my future rewrote my past." The ripple effect. Here's the beauty. When you embody this law, it doesn't stop with you. Your children, your friends, your community, they begin to feel it too. They notice the shifts in you, and it awakens something in them. They start to trust that their own pasts are not prisons, but canvases. Your embodiment becomes their permission. Your freedom becomes their invitation. Living beyond fear. Imagine what your life would feel like if regret lost its grip forever. If every mistake became fuel for miracles. If every delay became preparation. If every closed door was proof of protection. This is not imagination. This is what happens when you live fully in the law. The future is no longer a stranger. The past is no longer a weight. You live in the eternal now, where every moment bends toward blessing. A pause with you. Take a breath right here. Place your hand on your heart. Whisper this: I live as proof that my future rewrites my past. Say it again. Feel it settle. Let it become who you are. And as this entire journey has resonated, write those very words in the comments. I live as proof. Because by declaring it, you're not just closing a video, you're opening a life. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is your invitation. Not from me, but from your future self. Because if you've stayed with me until now, it's because you were meant to. Subscribe and step fully into this community of editors, authors, and creators of destiny. The final gift. What does it mean to embody this law? It means this: you stop chasing the past. You stop fearing the future. You live as one who knows that time itself bends in your favor. Your past is not your prison. Your future is not your hope. You are the meeting point of both. The author who speaks, the chooser who aligns, the soul who commands. And from this moment forward, you never again need to ask, am I bound by what has been? The answer is no. You're bound only by what will be. And what will be is already reaching back, rewriting everything in light. The closing vision. So as we end this journey together, imagine your life 1 year from now. See yourself freer, lighter, more abundant. See yourself walking through a world where even the shadows of your past have become stepping stones. See yourself smiling, at peace, knowing the law has carried you. That version of you already exists, and from this moment on, they are rewriting your story. Step into it, live as proof, and remember always, the past is clay, the future is the sculptor, and you are the living masterpiece.